Have you ever felt alone in your situation, your thoughts, your feelings? I know I have. Maybe you feel like you just can't get it right, or there's so much of you that needs to be fixed. Just like Jesus would, I'm inviting your messiness and brokenness here in this space. Seriously, I want you to feel like this is your living room where you come as you are and we unpack our stories so that God can heal and redeem them. He has so much more for you, friend. Welcome to His Haven. I'm your host, Kayla Alemo. Welcome back to another episode of His Haven. I can't wait to share Eden's birth story with you today. Speaking of that little girl, she is on me right now in the carrier. So I don't know if you hear any baby noises, but right now she's sleeping. So we'll see how long this lasts us. I feel like I've had to wear both of my girls for so long. Like they just loved napping on me and just not being apart from me. And I feel like there were times when I got kind of frustrated about that. And I'm like, no, like this is such a normal thing. Like babies want to be with their moms, you know, they want to feel close to you. And so, I just wanted to start today's episode with sharing some life updates with you and then getting into her birth story. Since I've been off of social media, which has been absolutely wonderful, 12 out of 10 recommend doing that if you've never done that. But because of that, I just wanted to share some things that have been going on in our life that have been really, really great and I hope helpful to you as well. But one thing I have been doing, or I should say not doing, is I have not been folding the girls' clothes for probably the past month. And I know that sounds super random, but I was getting really overwhelmed with taking care of our home, taking care of me, taking care of 2 under 2, which by the way is just another world of crazy. And I was like, I'm spending way too much time folding this laundry. Like I was just getting frustrated about the whole situation. And so I just came up with this idea of like, why do I feel like I need to fold this laundry? Because Noah, our oldest, was going in the room because she can reach the drawers, and she was pulling open the drawers and just throwing them on pulling them out of the drawer, throwing them on the floor and just, being silly. And I'm like, all right, well, if you're going to do that, I'm not going to spend all of this time folding clothes. So mom tip for you is you don't need to fold the clothes. Okay, I have laid them all nicely in a drawer, long ways. And when she needs something, I'll just go in and I pull them out and that's it. And it has been so great, such a game changer for my mindset. I'm not spending hours and hours folding laundry for it to only be messed up. So I still fold our laundry, and maybe one day down the road, I'll fold their laundry too. But for right now, in this season of just craziness, I'm trying to figure out pockets of time that can just be added to our life. And that was an area I felt like I needed to shift a little bit. Granted, I totally believe that, what you're going to do whatever works for your family. Your family's going to look different than what our family does, and that's okay. And just because you're doing something different or I'm doing something different doesn't make it wrong. I think that's one thing in motherhood, and I don't want to go too far out into this, but that's one thing in motherhood I really need to work on, honestly. If I have friends over or I go to a girlfriend's house and we're just hanging out and we're with our kids, I just really notice how they parent, and I notice how I parent, and then I'll compare, and then I question, am I doing something wrong? Should I be doing this should I be doing this because that will make things better? I don't know. I question a lot of my parenting, and I don't know, that's something I've just been talking to the Lord a lot about lately, is just I want to be confident in what I am bringing to the table as a mom. You have given me these children, you have said, okay, I'm entrusting these children to you, And so I want to believe that you have confidence in me that I can do it. That doesn't mean I'm not going to make mistakes or mess up or fail, because I will. And, that's something that, it's just been something that I've been wrestling with. And so anyway, all that to say, it's going to look different for everyone, but for our family, the laundry thing has been great. So definitely try that if you are going insane with laundry. Another random thing we've been doing in our home is really minimizing seed oils, which seed oils are really harmful. There's a ton of research on them now. If you aren't sure what I'm talking about, but we've basically been trying to transition more of our food to organic things. Now, I'll say that I've been on a holistic journey for the past 4.5 years or so, and I've been really good about the products. I've been really good about swapping to cleaner products and things like that. But when it comes to the food, man, food's so good, and the bad stuff is so good, and it has been so challenging. But I will tell you, we've probably been doing this for the past month, just minimizing seed oils, minimizing processed food, eating more fruits and vegetables, and I'm telling you that I physically feel so much better. Like, I feel like I'm so tired with 2 under 2, but I'm also like, I have more energy. I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if those two things can go hand in hand, but for me, I feel like they have been. Like, I'm tired because I'm taking care of 2 littles, but also my energy during the day has just been so much better because I feel like I'm eating much better quality foods. So if that's something that you are, just interested in learning more about, I'd love to talk more about it on this podcast. I'm definitely not an expert by any means, but the past couple of months, just being on maternity leave and having some extra time to research, having extra time to make things, it has just been such a game changer. And I'm trying not to have this mindset of it's so hard, and so then I just throw in the towel and then I don't want to do anything. And instead of having that all or nothing approach of if I can't have everything organic, then I'm just not going to do it. It's no, realistically for our family right now, what's a couple things that I can swap? What are a couple foods that we can do better with quality? And it's just some simple swaps. For example, I'll share one thing with you. Eggs, okay? Eggs, swapping those to organic, different yogurts, eating more veggies and less I literally have 1 box of crackers right now in our pantry because I love them and I'm not sure if I'm ready to part with them right now, but we don't keep cookies, we don't keep other crackers, we don't keep chips, we don't keep tasty cakes, we don't keep any of that in our pantry. And so just minimizing those things, I swear I have felt so much better. And I don't know, I guess just for the mom that's I'm drowning and I feel like I have no energy and I drink 5 cups of coffee a day to get me through, I'm talking to you, I'm talking to the mom that wants to make some cleaner swaps with that. One of the things we have just been minimizing is those seed oils. So that's been really helpful. And also natural flavors, which is just a new thing. This is literally the past couple of days, I found this video that was talking more about what natural flavors are. And so that's been another thing. I've just been reading labels, and if it has natural flavors, it's going to go. It's going to not be have a space in our home. And, again, I'm not trying to have this all or nothing approach, and I don't want to stress you out with this conversation either. If you are overwhelmed by this and you're I don't know where to start, I totally understand. I totally get that. I would definitely just start with the biggest things that you use most often in your home and go from there. And then just one other thing I wanted to share with you too is because I've been off social media, I had this whole thing of okay, I'm probably addicted to social media, and okay, I deleted social media. But now that I don't have social media, now that I'm not on it, I've deleted the apps from my phone. I think that I'm just addicted to my phone, and I found this book. It's called How to Break Up with Your Phone. I think it's by Catherine Price. I'll link it in the show notes. And man, it has just been so good. The book talks so much about, there's so many of us addicted to our phones and we don't even realize it. We are grabbing it every chance we get, whether we're bored, whether we're stressed, whether we're emotional about something, whatever it is. And it has been just so eye-opening. And so the first half of this book is a lot of informative things about that, and how these companies, how the iPhone makers, how these app creators will make and create these apps in our phone devices to be more addictive. And what's really ironic is a lot of these creators literally don't allow their kids, their own kids, to be on these apps and on these devices because they know how addicting they can be. The whole thing is just wild to me. If you've never tapped into it, it's really interesting to learn more about it. Like, I'm just learning so many things that my phone even tracks that I didn't even know my phone tracked. So anyway, half of that book is very informative, and then the other half is like a 30-day breakup with your phone. And a lot of it in the beginning is all about mindfulness and awareness, and what are you feeling before you touch your phone, and what are you feeling afterwards, and questions like that. I'm only on day 8, and so at this point I have like turned off all my notifications. I have tidied up my apps. Like, she talks a lot about how we have all of these apps that we just don't need and they just suck us in, you know? So it's really, really interesting. And yeah, it's been just really, I don't know, just like a breather. I don't really know how to describe it, but like, as a mom, like, I don't want our kids to grow up thinking I just lived through this phone. Like, I want to live life with them. Am I totally going to get rid of my phone? I don't know. I've definitely thought about it. I'm not going to lie. I've thought about it. I know a friend that's totally gotten rid of her iPhone, and I've actually talked about having her on the podcast with her because I'm like, how do you do that? Like, that's a thing. And so anyway, it can be a thing, and I don't know if I'll go that far, but it's just like a good question to ask yourself. Like, do you feel like you are living your life through your screen? Like, you're living through other people's life, like, honestly, that you don't even know. Like, a lot of them are people that you just don't know, that you just say you're inspired by, quote unquote inspired by, but really, like, there's envy there, and there's all of these other things that come along with just seeing their pretty life on social media. And so I don't know, just something to ask yourself, something to go to the Lord about. All right, let's get into the birth story. Dun, dun, dun. Okay. Yeah, that was a very quick transition. So again, like last time with, last month I shared Noah's birth story, and it was crazy. So if you haven't listened to that, go and check that out. I might refer back to that one a little bit just to compare both birth stories. But also, this is, again, disclaimer, I'm going to use probably some TMI words and language. So if that's not your thing, then feel free to not listen to this. But I'm not really going to sugarcoat some things on here. So yeah, that's just your permission to leave if that's not something that you want to hear today. Hi, baby. So let's get started. So I'll start from the, beginning, and I'll just say that, so my 37-week appointment, I went to the office and they took my blood pressure, and it was, I think, 140s over 90s. Immediately, I'm like anxious because I had preeclampsia with my first, with Noah. And so I'm already like, oh my gosh, I do not want to get induced. I do not want to have preeclampsia. Take deep breaths. Let's just see the doctor. Let's go from there. Immediately go in the room with the nurse, and the doctor comes in and she's like, all right, well, looks like you're going to labor and delivery. I'm like, what? She's like, yeah, I mean, your baby's fully cooked, your pressure's high, like, might as well just get induced. And I'm like, I don't want to get induced though. So we kind of went back and forth, and she was just like, well, why not? And I was like, well, because I don't want to, like, and working in the labor and delivery world, I definitely saw my fair share of inductions, and probably, in fact, most of my patients had inductions, and I would say like 90% of them were probably totally unnecessary. So and I saw a lot of them end up in C-sections, and I was trying to avoid a C-section if possible. Obviously, if something emergent or dangerous was happening, I'm all for it, but I would like to avoid that, and I was trying to also do a natural vaginal delivery, and if you're doing an induction, a lot of times that can make things harder to do a natural delivery. And so anyway, we were sitting there, we were chatting, and I was like, all right, well, why don't you check me? Cause I'm just curious if I'm dilated, and why don't we retake my blood pressure? And she's like, that sounds like a great plan. So that's what we did. She checked me, and I felt like I needed to tell her, this is like an old school doctor, mind you, like she has probably been working in the dinosaur ages, okay? And nothing wrong with that. Like some of them, I will say, the older, it's like, oh yeah, you have more experience, but then maybe sometimes they're not as updated with new statistics, new information. They just kind of are like, well, I've always done things this way, and so this is how it's going to be. And I'm not saying every doctor's like that, but I think she had a little bit of that mentality. And so I just felt like I needed to tell her, hey, don't give me a membrane sweep, like when she was down there. And she literally looked at me and goes, why? And I was like, because I don't want one. She's like, but why? Your baby's fully cooked and it might help things. And I was like, but I don't want to. And she's like, but why? And I was like, girl, okay, girl. I almost didn't let her check me, because I didn't fully trust that she like wasn't going to do it anyway. And I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. I ended up letting her check me. She didn't give me a membrane sweep, but just a side note, like you are allowed to say no to whatever you want to. It is your body and it's not theirs. And so it's really as simple as that. They can suggest things, of course, and I'm not saying to not be ignorant at all, but if you don't want something, you don't have to get it done. So that's just a little side note there. But anyway, so she checks me and she's like, yeah, you're closed. I'm like, oh, great. And then we rechecked my blood pressure, and it was like 130s, I think, over 90s or something. And I was like, I really don't want to get induced. Like, can I just go home and, I'll check my blood pressure. And if anything gets worse, like I'll call you guys or go to labor and delivery. And she's like, sure, that plan is fine. So meanwhile, I had like already texted Tony panicking and just being like, hey, they're suggesting an induction. Just hang on or whatever. I don't even know what I said, but it was like very vague and short. And so meanwhile, this is all happening at the office. Tony is like at home. My husband, he's at home packing, like calling all the people we need to call and just being like, just thinking he's going to meet us at the hospital in like an ambulance or something. So that was kind of comical. But anyway, got in the car, called him and said, you don't need to go to the hospital. I'm coming home. And we just really took that week and we prayed and we talked and I cried a lot because I didn't know what to do. I really didn't want to wait for things to get worse, but I really didn't want an induction. And so I was really wrestling with like what to choose. And we finally decided to get induced, and that did not happen with Noah. I went into labor on my own with Noah. So this was like a completely different experience. Like you're not rushing, you can pack up everything, you can shower, you can wear a cute outfit. Like it's completely different than what I experienced last time. So we ultimately decided that because I had some blood pressures that were up in like the 150s, and basically work was kind of telling me that I needed to go to occupational health and like basically get cleared with coming back to work. And so it just made this whole thing really sticky, and I was like, I feel like it would just be easier at this point, maybe safer at this point, to just get an induction. So we know a friend who works at this hospital, and we let her know like, hey, we're going to come in and get induced. And she and this other nurse set up the room, literally like so adorable. They put candles everywhere. They put lights everywhere. They got this whole like natural cart for me because she knew that was my goal, was to have like another natural birth. And so there was like a little comb, there was a little TENS device, and it was just like really sweet. It was just a little like boost of something cute that and helpful that I needed during this like very chaos decision making that we were going through. And so we get there, we get settled in. We got there in the morning, but things don't start for a while. So if you're planning to get induced and you're a walk-in, like get there early, make sure you eat beforehand. They're not going to feed you like a meal. So we got there and got settled in. And they basically they checked me. They came to check me first to see what we were going to start with. And I still had my birth plan that I gave them. And, I don't have a problem with birth plans. Like, I think they are great. I think that you should have them, even if it's a loosey-goosey, even if it has 2 things on there and it's not super specific. Like, I just think it's helpful for everyone to kind of be on the same page. Like, you're a nurse, your spouse, your doctor, like everyone knows like these are your goals. Because when you get into like labor, I feel like there's so much going on that it can be tough to like communicate some of those things. Even if you do want an epidural and even if you do want this or that, like it can just be, one less thing that you kind of have to think of in the moment. You know what I mean? So they checked me and I told her like, hey, before you check me, I do just want to let you know, like I would love to just do cytotech, or they call it mesoprostol, which is a cervical ripening. And sometimes you can take that and it put you into labor and you don't need Pitocin or anything like that. And so that was my goal. But you really only get that if you're closed to like around maybe 2 centimeters. Sometimes they only give it like from closed to 1 centimeter. So I was like, well, I'm probably closed. She just checked me like a week ago, so I'm probably closed, blah, blah, blah. Well, they checked me and I'm 3 centimeters. So, my plan had to shift, which again, you can have a birth plan, but sometimes it does have to shift. So at that point, I couldn't get cytotech. I had to go straight to Pitocin, which I was definitely nervous about. So they started Pitocin at like 1:45 around there in the afternoon. And I really did okay for probably a couple hours. Like I was just feeling some cramping. I was having conversations. And then maybe like 2 or 3 hours in, one of the nurses put me in this wacko position. I don't know. I think they called it flying cowgirl or something. I have no idea. But I felt so, like my body just felt so awkward. Like it just like isn't usually in the position that they were putting me in. And they used like the peanut ball and stuff and they put me in this position, and whatever that did to my body, I don't know, but it was doing something, because I went from like laughing and talking to shaking and not talking and feeling pretty intense contractions and breathing through them. And I looked at Tony and I was like, I'm not sure totally, but I might be going into transition. And so he was like, okay. So he called the doula. He called our friend Nicole, who was doing our photography pictures for the birth, called both of them and was like, hey, you might want to get here, blah, blah, blah. So they got there and I got in a different position, because the really, cool thing about labor is like, it's good to get into different positions to just help keep your baby moving, help keep things moving along. And so I got into a different position, which was me getting up out of the bed and like leaning on the side of the bed and just bouncing on the exercise ball. So I did that. And like, for some reason that took things way down a notch. Like I went from like shaking and all these other things to now I'm on this ball and now I feel like things are not as intense. And so I felt bad because I called everybody there thinking I was like getting close because of how my body was reacting, but then things shifted. And when they checked me like 4 hours later from when we started the Pitocin, I was 4 centimeters. So I went from 3 to 4 in 4 hours. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I thought I was going to be way higher in centimeters, but so that was kind of a downer. And I was trying not to get discouraged about that, but we just spent those, next few hours just laughing and talking. And what's funny is we hired our doula. Her name is Becky. I posted her information in the show notes of Noah's birth story. I can post it in this one as well. She's absolutely amazing. Love her so much. Well, she was in another very long birth. So she was like, I need to go home and sleep. So she actually sent her backup doula, who I'd never met before, but her name was Tia, and she was absolutely amazing. They're so different in like their care, but she was absolutely so great. And because I'd never met her, we just spent like the next few hours just talking and chatting, and we just had a lot of things in common. And it was just really funny to like have that time because we're talking, we're laughing, and like the more that you're doing that in your labor, the better, because all of that is like releasing oxytocin and just helping things progress, at least that's what I've learned in my birthing classes, is that you want to do those things. You don't want to tense up or be anxious as best as you can, because that's going to hinder oxytocin from being released. So another 4 hours later, they checked me because I was like starting to really feel things. Tia ended up getting me in all these crazy positions, like with a stool, without a stool, over the bed, with my legs dangling on the bed. I probably got in like 6 different positions or something. So a couple of them where I could literally only do like them through a couple of contractions, and I was like, okay, yeah, I don't know if I can do that one again. That was pretty intense, but I do think it really helps align my pelvis and just bring Eden's head down and just really help with labor, because again, I was trying to go natural, but I was also very open to an epidural because I knew I was getting Pitocin. I knew that things could be more intense with synthetic Pitocin, and so I was just very open-handed about that whole thing. And so I started really getting in my head during those next 4 hours. I started having the thought of like, okay, don't know if I can keep going, don't know if I can keep doing this, really getting just worn out. And it wasn't even that long, I feel like, of labor. But it was definitely intense. And this time, I said this in my podcast episode with Noah's birth story, but I had all back labor with Noah. I had never felt a contraction like in my abdomen. And so with this one, I was really praying like, God, I want to feel a contraction in the front. So I didn't have back labor at all, but I actually felt it all in like my pelvis area, like down in my girly parts. Like that is where I felt so much pressure, just intensity of the contractions. It was like all down there, and it was really, really intense. And I just kept feeling like, I don't know if I could do this. And it's just so ironic because I was, or not ironic, but it's just funny because I needed everyone hands on deck with Noah, like someone doing counter pressure, someone helping me with the TENS device until I like figured it out. I needed to hold someone's hand. Like I just needed people. And with this one, I actually told Tony, like, please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. I think for contractions, he did do counter pressure a couple times, but it had to be a little bit different this time because my pain was like in a different area. So anyway, it was just like so funny how different they were in so many different ways. And I just remember during those 4 hours just being like, I don't know if I can keep going. I don't know. And I just kept like talking to Jesus, saying Jesus. Like I really couldn't say much more than that other than the name of Jesus, because I was just in labor la land. So another 4 hours, I was like, I think things are really going to be intense, and I was considering an epidural, and so I just wanted them to check me to see where I was at. So this was 5:15, or I'm sorry, that was when they checked me, and I was 4 centimeters. They checked me again at 9. So everything started at 1:45 with the Pitocin. At 9 p.m. they checked me, and I was 5 centimeters. And man, let me tell you, when they told me that, I was no good. And I did allow them to do like a membrane sweep when they checked me around 4 centimeters. I forgot to say that, but that was not cool at all. Never want to do that again. I had her do it, I think, for maybe 5 seconds. And then I was like, okay, I'm good. And so anyway, around 9, I got checked again, and I was 5 centimeters. I was not okay in my mind because I'm like, So you're telling me this is almost 8 hours of labor, or 7.5 hours or whatever, and I am just 2 more centimeters than I was when I got here. That's really discouraging. And I was really starting to get in my head. It's really easy to do that. But I felt like things were going from like 0 to 100, and I didn't know like what was happening. Well, when they checked me at 5 centimeters, they asked like, hey, do you want us to break your water? And I was like, if you break my water, things are only going to get intense. And I feel like I'm barely hanging on right now. So I think let's just reevaluate in a little bit. And as soon as she got up from the bed to check me, my water just popped like all over the place, all over everyone who was down there near the end of the bed. It was just like, well, I didn't get to decide. It just literally did it on its own. They kind of left, and I immediately was like, I was laying on the bed. I was on my sides, going from one side to another, just like unable to even really breathe. Like things just got extremely intense, and I just felt so much pressure down in my lady parts. And I was like, I think she's coming. And they were like, we literally just checked you, like you're 5 centimeters. And I was like, I know, but I think she's coming. Like I was feeling like a burning sensation, and I was getting a little anxious about that, because they say like you don't want to push before you're 10 centimeters because you can rip your cervix. I don't know. That's what I've always heard. I don't know if that's actually true or it can happen, but yeah, I was like, if that's what's happening right now, that's not good. But my body was literally just doing things on its own. Like I couldn't control it. So they checked me literally 10 minutes later, okay, and I am 7 centimeters. So in 10 minutes, I went from 5 to 7. And then I don't even know what happened after this. Like everything is just so blurry around this whole time. I just remember the doctors being in there, but they weren't gowned up. No one was ready. The nurse that I had, Bree, she actually goes to our church. She was on our podcast. I remember her saying head, like the baby's head was either coming or out. And she delivered our baby. Like our nurse delivered our baby because the doctors were just not ready. No one was ready. I wasn't mentally ready. I only pushed 2 times and she was out. So from 9 to 9:15 was when she was born. I went from 5 centimeters to fully dilated to pushing out a baby all in 15 minutes. And it was the most intense thing of my life. Like, I don't know if I'd recommend that. I don't know. I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt like I was having this out of body experience. I remember Tia, the doula, just coming close to me and just saying, okay, try to I don't think she said calm down, but something along those lines. And I was just like, I can't get it together right now. Like, I just felt so out of control that my body was just doing so much, I think so fast, that I didn't even mentally process when she was born. I would just remember saying, she's here? Like, I was so confused. It didn't even register for probably another 10 minutes that I had delivered a baby, because it just all happened so fast. Like, I was mentally at 5 centimeters. I was not mentally at fully dilated. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, we were able to have another natural vaginal delivery. Praise God. Thank you, God. It was absolutely intense. And I couldn't have done it without our team. And after that, she was born. She was breathing okay, but she wasn't really crying that much. And so our nurse took her over to the baby warmer, and her oxygen was actually in the 70s. And so they called NICU. NICU came by, gave her a ton of oxygen, did all their stuff. So Tony, I was like, go be with her. And then my friend Nicole, who was taking pictures and stuff, she was by me because my placenta was not coming out. It took a while with Noah. It took about 30 minutes to come out with Noah, and it almost took another 30 minutes to come out with Eden. And this time it was much different. Like, they kind of started pulling on my cord, which they did last time as well. And I told them, I don't want traction on my cord. I just want it to come on its own. They did listen to me, but eventually when it got closer to 30 minutes, they were like, okay, I really think we should try this. And so we did a couple things. They tried like the fundal massage to try to get things moving, but I literally had to push my placenta out, and it was not fun. Like they had to, hold my feet up, and basically like I was pushing the baby, except I didn't push that way. I pushed like on my side. Highly recommend not pushing on your back if you're able to. It's really not the best position. It's just really most convenient for providers. But anyway, that's just a little side note for you, and if you're having a baby anytime soon. And so that was pretty frustrating, the placenta part. I did not want to have to go to the OR and have them, have to get that out or manually extract it, because that could also be a thing. Like I was just praying while I was laying there and saying, God, please let this placenta come out totally fine. And it did eventually in about 30 minutes. And so we were dealing with my stuff. We're dealing with Eden's stuff. Eventually they put her back on my chest. We were able to do skin to skin. We did all the things, and we stayed in labor and delivery for about 8 to 12 hours. I just have to stay on the cardiac monitor for my heart history. I have a medical condition or a congenital heart defect called tetralogy of Fallot. So because I've had multiple heart issues in both pregnancies, I have to be on a heart monitor during pregnancy and then also a little postpartum. So because of that, I stay on the labor and delivery side for a little bit, and they monitor my heart because there's so many fluid shifts that happen in pregnancy that it's basically the most prime time for any arrhythmias to happen. So they just want to closely monitor me. So we stayed there, and then we got transferred to the mother baby unit. I don't know what happened. This was just like the weirdest thing ever, but I didn't sleep for like over 60 hours straight. I don't know what it was. I mean, I should have been exhausted. I was exhausted, but when I laid down and tried to sleep, I could not sleep. I don't know if it was anxiety related or just hormones or the Pitocin, because I didn't have Pitocin with Noah during labor. So I don't know what it was, but I could not sleep. And as soon as I had, some time where I was like, okay, I've changed my diaper, I've peed, I've gotten myself a little bit together, taking care of the baby, fed her, I would lay down to sleep, and I just could not. One of the nights, I think it was the night, I had a night shift nurse, and one night it just sounded like Eden was having some grunting, which sounds a little like singing in a baby. I don't really know the best way to describe it with words, but I told my nurse about it. I said, doesn't it sound like she's grunting? And they said yes. And that can be a sign of something respiratory related going on. So what happened was they took her to the nursery, and there was a pediatrician there. They put her on a pulse ox to monitor her oxygen, and her oxygen just kept dipping down into the 80s. So they said, we'll keep her here for a little bit, and if she continues to do that, we're going to admit her to we're going to take her to the NICU. I was like, oh my gosh, so I'm praying, I'm crying. I'm like, Jesus, please don't let her go to the NICU. Like that would be just so tough on my mama heart. Like I am a fresh postpartum mom, and it's not something you want to hear, like your baby going to the NICU, even though she was really overall okay from what I thought, it's just like, you don't want to hear that. And so we ended up having to admit her to the NICU because she continued to dip down with her oxygen. And I think she was there for about 6 hours. So that was a whole process. You have to sign paperwork. You have to get a badge that you have to figure out where the heck it is. And so she was there. We visited her when she was in there. She was attached to all these things. And that was really hard to see her in there. I mean, of course, there's other babies in there that are attached to a million other different things. And I just had so much of a new perspective for like a quote unquote NICU mom, even though I don't know if I would consider myself to be a NICU mom. It was such a small time frame, but just seeing tons of babies in there hooked up to so many different things, being super little, like 26 weeks and even younger, and some of them there for months, and I could not imagine leaving my baby there. I was already a mess leaving her from our room. like usually they do the room to room and they're next to you and all of those things. But now she's on a completely different unit. And so I had a really hard time and try to just really, really just trust that she was in good hands. Like the Lord was going to protect her through the people that were caring for her. But that was really tough. And so, she went over there and of course her oxygen doesn't dip down at all, which part of me was like, if you're going to have issues now while we're here. I don't want to have issues at home and be questioning and worried and anxious, And so she was monitored for about 6 hours. She was fine. So then she came back to us and we ended up getting an echo on her to check out her heart. So we did that, and she does have a couple of small heart issues that we've had to see cardiology for and stuff like that they don't say, they're not super concerned about it. They said she has something called like a PFO. I think it's pronounced patent foramen ovale. I should know this, but the heart's difficult. So also it's okay that I don't know that. And she also has something else called an anterior atrial shunt. So when we saw cardiology, they're very not worried at all about these things unless she's symptomatic. So unless she's, turns blue, unless she has difficulty or, fatigue with feeding, things like that they were just telling me to look out for. So she still has those things as of today. But we are just praying for healing. We are praying that by the time we need to follow up with cardiology around her year mark, that those things will be completely gone and closed and healed in Jesus' name. So we're praying for those things, but otherwise she's been doing real fine. She is a chunky girl. She just turned 3 months and she is, I think, 13, 14 pounds. She's chunky and I love it. I love her rolls so much. I tell her all the time. So that is Eden's birth story. Wait, I totally forgot. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot the postpartum thing. Okay. I will actually share some more postpartum things in the next episode because I really want to share some tips with you that I did, or things I did this time versus what I did with Noah that I really think just helped my mental health, helped my physical health. I definitely struggled a lot in the beginning of postpartum. I'm not gonna lie. It's been really challenging for me for both babies, honestly. But I will share more about my postpartum journey and also just some things that have helped me in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning into His Haven podcast. I hope you walk away from it feeling seen and hopeful that God has so much more for you and you're not alone in your struggles. If you found this episode helpful, share it with a friend who you think it could speak to. And if you want to connect more, you can find me on Instagram at kayla.alemo. See you next time, friend.